Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Switched On Streams podcast with me, your host, Brennan Hoof, and with me as always is Pomster. How you going, bro?
Howdy. Yeah, good. It's been a busy week, but yeah, everything's great here. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Still can't get over last week's shambles of FIFA on the Sunday night.
Yes, yeah. Horrible.
And especially that ending. For those that weren't there watching on stream, we had a horrible night. We were scoring goals but conceding way too many. Blowy wasn't there with us, so we didn't have our defensive anchor, and unfortunately we needed to, I think, win our last three
Believe so.
to stay in the league, and we won the game. We went 1-0 down, brought it back, went 2-1 down, brought it back, went 3-2 up, and the end of the game, just everything happened as normal. We were celebrating on the pitch. Get out of the game, said we'd been relegated, gave us both 0.0 what do you call it, ratings.
Match rating. Yeah.
And went out and we'd been relegated and it had somehow given us a 3-0 loss. So
Yeah, still unclear how it happened. I did contact EA support and heard back from them. And they wanted me to clarify the issue further, which I did. And they then told me that, unfortunately, they cannot change match results, and it is out of their power to put us back in Division 3. However, they suggest that we check their troubleshooting page to avoid this issue happening again.
typical EA.
Yeah, awful customer support. And, I've had things go wrong in other games before and contacted customer support and actually got stuff fixed. So it can be within a developer's power to sort these things out when users have these kinds of glitches. But in EA's case, apparently out of their power.
And the thing is, like, okay, pro clubs might not be the way they can fix something. You know, we might not have been able to go back up to the division we're in, or anything like that. Fair enough, but some sort of compensation. Some FIFA points, or something that it's nothing to them.
Yeah,
something
they
to
didn't
go,
offer anything.
you know what? Something major wrongs happened here. Here's something in compensation, especially when we're less than a month out from a new game.
Yeah, and I went to a lot of effort to support, write quite a lot of information about it, upload the video of the event for them and everything, and that's what you get back. Almost automated response.
Yeah, pretty much. We're going to try and keep things very short. Try to. Said this last week, didn't happen. This week, we're going to attempt to. So, we've only got 3 stories that we're going to talk about. And one of them's slightly gaming related in an unrelated way. But we'll get to that in a minute. The first thing we want to talk about this week is Volition have closed their doors. And their statement reads like this. The Volition team has proudly created world-class entertainment for fans around the globe for 30 years. We've been driven by a passion for our community and always worked to deliver joy, surprise and delight. This past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen Embracer and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they evaluated strategic and operational goals and made a difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately. To help our team, we're working to provide job assistance and help smooth the transition for our Volition family members. We thank our customers and fans around the world for all the love and support over the years. You'll always be in our hearts, Volition Games. What's your thoughts on this one?
Well, it's devastating. I think, we I don't think we like it when any studio of that size is shut down, and just sad circumstances, really.
Do you think this is a reflection on the last Saints Row game?
Quite possibly. I think there maybe some of the stuff that they've done in the last couple of years has suggested that they've already been kind of struggling. They remastered previous releases, and they weren't great remasters. They were okay,
Was
but it seems like they were really trying to cash in on games that they had already released. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I suppose when you look back in hindsight now, maybe the writing was on the wall. And yet, the last Saints Row game is probably the big nail in the coffin, that it wasn't as big as 3 and 4 that had come before it.
I think that maybe, and I could be wrong, let us know in the comments if we are, but without looking it up, that those remasters came before Embracer took over. Because
You could be right.
I remember the games themselves were all under THQ and THQ Nordic.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a feeling that they may have gone in there. Now,
Right.
the last Saints Row game was heavily made the way it was because of Embracer Group, to try and broaden people coming in and get new people involved in the series, reignite that franchise. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. Was it a Game of the Year contender? Was it a great game? Not by any stretch of the means. Was it a fun game to go in and just do what you do in those kind of open world GTA sort of like games? Hell yeah. You know, the customization, you know, we had the church back that we sort of made into a villa and all of that. Absolutely fantastic game in that sense. But again, as you said, it's always a bad day when something like this happens, and especially to one of what was a industry leader in that style of game for so long, alongside obviously Rockstar. Our second story. Now, the reason I said that this is kind of game related, it's to do with adaptations. And very much over the years how we've seen very bad game adaptations happen, and we're starting to get on the right track now with Twisted Metal and The Last of Us. Anime's had the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've had things like Dragon Ball Evolution, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Cowboy Bebop, but now, finally, someone's hit the nail on the head. One Piece live action adaptation is fantastic. I'm 6 episodes in.
Right.
And the one thing that worried me, well, there's 2 things that worried me. One was Sanji having an English accent.
Right.
But when you actually watch the story arc, it actually makes a lot of sense. You know, obviously, this world is not based on our world by any stretch of the means, but, you know, everyone from different areas is going to have different accents and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, the people being different ethnicities. Yeah, that word. And having different accents and everything makes a lot of sense. Something that doesn't really come through when you're reading the manga or watching the anime. So that worked out quite well. The other thing I was worried about was the pacing.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're reading the manga, things are stretched out quite long. When you watch the anime, they're not quite stretched out as much, but in certain points they are, to make sure they don't overtake the manga.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, you know, there's over 1,000 episodes now of the anime, and then fitting, what was it I read, that it was 29 chapters from the manga and about 17 hours worth of the anime that they've shoved into 8 1-hour episodes.
It's pretty impressive.
But the pacing doesn't feel like it's going too quick. Like
Yeah,
they're telling the stories they really want to tell. And for anybody that hasn't got into One Piece over the 26 years I think it's been on now,
yeah, very long runtime, yeah.
Or got into the manga, this is a great starting point. A lot of people I've read online during the trailer, sort of before it came out yesterday, was saying, "Oh, it looks like they're just wearing cosplay." But when I sit there and think about it, if this world was the real world, that's just what they'd wear.
Right.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it would
Yes.
look like everybody's wearing cosplay because you're in a world that's surreal.
Yeah, and that would be the normal in that world.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, actually, speaking of, last night I saw a trailer for the new Wonka movie that's coming out.
yeah,
And that's a bit like that, you know. It's highly stylized. Everyone's wearing kind of over the top clothing.
yeah,
But in that world, that is what everyone wears, and that's the normal.
yeah.
However, on the voices point, the accents point, I do find it very weird that they all have American accents in that movie.
In the Wonka movie,
Yeah,
it does look very good though. I will give
it does.
that.
It does look good, but that was the only thing that kind of made me go a bit. That's not right.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. But look, this if you haven't watched this show, definitely go give it a shot, because I mean, I'm in love with it. They've nailed the characters to a T. The one thing that stood out for me was a fight scene between Sanji and between Zoro and Mihawk. And in the anime, this goes on for quite a while and all of that. In this, it lasts about 2 minutes. But the choreography, the way they played it out, they used all the lines that they needed to use to get the point across. And it still had the same impact.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And another point that I think Netflix have done well with this, the only reason they were allowed to make it was that the original creator, I can't remember his exact name, I know it's Oda something, or something Oda, whichever way around it goes in Japan, is heavily involved. And he said he wasn't going to allow this to be released unless he was happy with it. And it lived up to the, the One Piece universe and the fans. And he actually made them go and reshoot scenes to make it.
Yeah, right.
See, he wasn't happy with, the way some things came across or the way some things played out. Executive producer on the show made him go reshoot it. Once he was happy with it, they've released it. Oh, wow. Even the CGI in this. Like Luffy and his rubber banding. Who's the other one? Buggy the Clown, who can make all parts of his body come off and fly around.
Yeah.
They nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. looks fantastic. It looks cartoonish. It's silly when it needs to be, serious in other points. Go watch it. It's fantastic. It's what every anime show, live action show, has wanted to be, and what every future show should aspire to be. Like, it's set the bar really, really high, I believe. We were saying just before off air that for some reason it has 2 Metacritic scores, or it did this morning when I looked at it. They are sitting at a 7.7 and an 8.2 score. Not quite sure which one's supposed to be the right one.
I suppose you can kind of average them.
Yeah. There is no critic score.
7.95.
And I think IGN only gave it like a 6. Which I found really strange. Because they did give it praise in their review, but they only gave it a 6, which shocked me. But
well, they did a similar thing in another title that we're going to get onto at some point in this show. So that's not that out of the ordinary for IGN to do that kind of thing in reviews.
No. Well, let's move on to that point. And that is Starfield Reviews are out. Now, obviously the one we're talking about is IGN, and they've given it a 7 and only rated it a good. This comes from Dan Stapleton over at IGN. He says, Starfield has a lot of forces working against it, but eventually the allure of its expansive role-playing quests and respectable combat make it a gravitational pull difficult to resist. I will just read his verdict. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I read through it just before, and it is very, very long. His verdict is, it's never a great sign when someone recommends a game on the grounds that it gets good after more than a dozen hours. But that's very much the kind of game Starfield is, and I do recommend it. There are a lot of forces working against it, and the combination of disjointed space travel, non-existent maps, aggravating inventory management, and a slow rollout of essential abilities very nearly did it in. It was a joy piloting a custom spaceship into and out of all sorts of morally ambiguous situations in a rich sci-fi universe that eventually pulled out of a nosedive. I'm glad that I powered through the early hours because its interstellar mystery story pays off, and once the ball gets rolling, combat on foot and in space gradually becomes good enough that its momentum carried me into the New Game Plus. After I'd finished the main story, after around 60 hours, like Skyrim and Fallout 4 before it, there's still an immense amount of quality role-playing quests and interesting NPCs out there waiting to be stumbled across, and the pull to seek it out is strong. Now, we also watched Kind of Funny's review, or you watched some of it. I watched the whole thing this morning with Tim Geddes, Blessing Adeoye Jr., Paris Lilly, Greg Miller, and I forget who the other one was that was there. There was 5 of them. Yeah, I'm going to get crucified for not remembering. But only half of them decided to give a review on it. 2 others decided not to. Blessing gave it a 3 out of 5, and Paris gave it a 4 out of 5. Now, they basically went through the same things that verdict said. A lot of other reviewers seem to be saying very similar things as well. Excuse me. And yeah, it seems like if you are a Bethesda fan, this is a game for you. But if you're not, maybe the hype train was just a bit too much. Much like we've seen possibly with games before, like Cyberpunk. and stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts, bro?
I think you're spot on there. Maybe the hype led some people to believe that this was going to be something new, and not what we're used to with Bethesda. But actually, it turns out that it's just another Bethesda game, like any other, really. And yeah, as you just said, like if you like Bethesda games, you'll probably like this, and if you don't, you probably won't. That's not to say you shouldn't go and try it if you're on the fence.
Yeah.
But I think most people will have played a Bethesda game at some point and will know one way or another whether they tend to like them. And yeah, I'm not sure there's too much that we can really add to it without playing it ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does come out next week for us. I think Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when it allows us to get in. Unfortunately, we're not big enough yet to get review codes. But I will be streaming it on Wednesday, definitely. Probably for most of the day. And I'll probably do some little reviews, personal reviews, throughout the day. I may even just sleep on Tuesday and smash through at midnight, through the night, get through those early hours to try and give off some kind of feel for the game. I did watch Kind of Funny's first hour with the game that they did, and there was some really interesting stuff there. It doesn't look as janky as most Bethesda games look. One thing that did sort of stand out was the third person. How they always sort of moved real funny when you were playing in third person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still got that Bethesda third person jump, but the running around and the moving and that actually looked normal.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing a lot of reviews have said, and to quote, I can't remember, quote Paris Lily, it is the most polished Bethesda game to be released as of yet.
Yeah.
It still feels like a Bethesda game. It's still got those Bethesda bugs and all of that, but it does feel very polished. And that to me is a bit of a step in the right direction. Obviously, Bethesda are known for their bugs, and it's become a meme over the years. But we want to see games come out that are finished, that are ready, that are polished.
Yeah.
And if there are a few bugs there, like one that I did see in the first hour gameplay, someone got killed just in the wrong spot and their gun got stuck in a door. And it was, doing the flap around thing.
Yeah.
But you close the door and the gun fell on the floor and everything sort of reset. Yeah, right. So, one thing I have heard though is on PC it's a bit buggy, a bit more buggy. One or two worlds out there wouldn't actually let you land on them. Would actually crash the game on PC.
Yeah.
Your lighting's just changed.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so reviewers have said that they've had to jump onto their console then to fix it. Paris Lily did say he played it on all three though. He played on PC, Series X and Series S. And that all three looked and played really well. And he actually spent a majority of his time playing on the Series S.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, that's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Even though there might not be any split-screen co-op. If you've... I expected a bit of a laugh out of you for that one. But fuck you. For those that haven't heard, Baldur's Gate is coming to Xbox this year. They've changed it. It just means that there's not going to be any split screen on the Series S version.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that may have hampered Starfield a little bit is how successful Baldur's Gate 3 has been.
Yeah.
Like, that came out of nowhere. Everybody loved it. It did things... So many things right that people weren't expecting from this game. That then they've transitioned from this into Starfield and gone, oh, this doesn't look right. This doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that to me is what's going to probably cement Baldur's Gate 3 for RPG of the year, if not Game of the Year.
Quite possibly. I suppose there's still a few months to go yet.
There's still a few months to go. There's still Spider-Man, and we've still got to remember that Hogwarts Legacy came out this year.
Yeah, it did. I think it's going to be really tough to pick Game of the Year.
Yeah.
And yeah, Spider-Man 2 will definitely be a very strong candidate. The first game was Game of the Year, so
yeah,
Yeah,
very, very strong candidate. There was one story that's come out of Starfield that is ridiculously funny and completely and utterly stupid at the same time. So a guy has stolen a bunch of copies of Starfield off the back of a truck from a postal van. He then, not only did he stream it the other day before embargo lifted, he made his character's name his real name, recorded it, streamed it live, and flashed his postal address up on screen saying he was selling the other copies.
he's got some big balls. That's that's all I'm going to say.
Police have arrested him. And he's now facing 7 years in jail.
I'm not surprised.
What are you thinking?
I mean, not very clever, but yeah, ballsy.
That absolutely baffled me. Now, what are your thoughts on where Bethesda goes next?
Ooh. Geez, I
obviously
can't even start to think.
Obviously, there's a couple of things. We know they're working on the next Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
But that's probably still 5-6 years away at this point. Yeah. Everything's been poured into Starfield. Obviously, some of that's been finished for a while. Some of those guys would have been early production of the next game. I think they've been holding off on Elder Scrolls after the success of Skyrim to be able to put the whole of Tamriel in there.
Mm-hmm. I suppose they've also been working in that time on Elder Scrolls Online as well.
Yeah. And, that's what I was going to say. We do have Elder Scrolls Online, which does have the whole of Tamriel in it. But I think they want to give that massive open world to the single player experience.
Yeah.
So there's that. Next year, I think might be the year of Fallout. Hang on one sec.
Oh, yeah, it could be right.
Tickling me throat, and I just can't get rid of it.
Fallout's a series that has been on a bit of a decline, so...
Well, this is what gets me. This gets me. I was looking before at IGN because they had it up on their Starfield review. And can I just say, Dan Stapleton from IGN, he reviewed Jedi Survivor, gave it a 9, and also did Marvel's Midnight Suns and gave it an 8. And yet he gave Starfield a 7. Now, on this page, it did go through and give some of Bethesda's others. Their Fallout 4 got a 9.5.
Yeah. I mean, Fallout 4 was, by most people's accounts, a very good game.
Yeah. But it was just Fallout 3 in a different city, really. With building.
Mm-hmm. And I still think probably New Vegas is even better.
Yeah, you see, I love Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was just a whole new thing.
But
Fallout
3 was 76 was 76 was a disaster.
Yeah, like it wasn't great. Widely reviewed as not great. We had a bit of fun in it once or twice.
I don't think we did.
There was once or twice you said, "Oh, we should go back and play that again." So I assumed we did.
Yeah, I thought the fact that we only played it twice was a bit damning, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's very true.
And you know, like, we experienced quite a lot of bugs when we played it, and we didn't play it straight after launch.
No, I did play it straight after launch, and I didn't mind it, but it was a game that, for me, I want to play with the boys.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of those games that I want to play with you guys don't like. But watch this space. Payday 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not far away. It's not far away at all. But yeah, so I think next year is going to be the year of Fallout. Obviously, the TV series coming. They've talked about doing the current gen upgrade of Fallout 4. So they're going to re-release that on Series X and PS5. And we assume that's going to be next year. Nothing's been announced yet, and they've got the big update coming for, I think it's Atlantic City going into Fallout 76.
Right.
So, I mean, people are still playing Fallout 76. There's a lot of stuff in there now to do. A lot of stuff in that game's been fixed. It does have its core base of players, so I'm not suggesting we jump back into it because it's a lot of money on DLC to go and see if it's improved for us when, you know, we have a lot of other stuff to do.
We do.
And, you know, especially with everything that's coming out over the next month and a bit, between Starfield, Baldur's Gate releases on the same day as Starfield on PS5, which I think I'll be getting. What else was there? We've got FIFA, we've got Mortal Kombat, we've got Payday, then there's Assassin's Creed Mirage, and then capping it all off with Spider-Man, all in the space of a month.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of going on there. Now, one last thing. Bit of a self-plug. I think I'm going to do this on September 28th through till the 30th. Now, we're saying it's a 24-hour live stream. It's probably going to be a little bit longer. Purely for the fact that we're going to finish with FIFA night. Now, the boys are only going to be on for bits of it. I've got another friend from Geelong that I play soccer with. He's going to jump on for a little bit and come and play some stuff. We're going to do a bit of Fortnite and stuff like that. But during that 24 hours, we're going to be playing the brand new EA Sports FC 24. We're going to do a bit of Fortnite. Hopefully, if I can get Stu, Pomster and Blowy involved, we're going to do a bit of Payday on the Thursday night. What else was there? Might do a bit of Starfield if I'm not completely over it by then. I did think, and let me know in the comments, and Pomster, you let me know now what you think of this, of doing a dark run on Baldur's Gate 3 during that time and seeing how quick I can get through the game, killing everybody.
Wow. I think you're going to be too tired by that point to be able to do that properly.
That's the fun of it. Now, we're not just going to be doing this for fun either. We're going to be doing this for charity. I've picked out the charity. It's something that is quite dear to my heart, and that is Child's Play. Now, they're a company that run across the globe, and they deal in bringing game consoles and games to children that are in need in hospitals to try and lift their spirits and give them something to do while they're fighting through whatever they're fighting through. And as somebody that's spent time in and around hospitals a lot over the years, between different family members being in hospital and the one or two occasions that I had to be in there for absolute nothing really, but had to be there for a day or two, this is something that, you know, can really lift the spirits of someone. And you know, sitting in a hospital bed can absolutely drive you insane, even as a kid. So having Switch consoles or, you know, some kind of gaming device around to help lift their spirits is a massive thing. So
100%.
we're partnering up through Twitch with them. So any money raised through Twitch will be directly going to them, and then we'll work out something for the Facebook and YouTube community on how they can support them as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of plug there. There'll be some more details over on the socials, so make sure you click on that link. It'll be in the bio to go through and find our socials and follow us from there. We are going to, over the next probably month, depending on how busy Pomster is, look at setting our own little website up. Especially now that Switched on Squads is now officially a company. It's all done. We're a company.
Awesome.
And yeah, so now we need a website. So we've got to move on to that. But
yes,
for now, it's been fun as always. Thank you for listening to our crap, because that's what we talk.
Hang on.
Oh,
Hang on. We're forgetting something.
Oh, holy mother! This is why he should host. I've got to do it both ways, depending on whose recording I use. He's there for me, and he's there for him.
Exactly.
Yep. You know what stuffed me up here? I usually have a running order on how I write things down, and I started with it on my running order this week. So I've got to the end, and I'm like, okay, yep, we're done. Completely forgot about it. Oh,
For those of you
1998.
for those of you who are regular listeners, you'll know what this is all about. For those of you who are listening to this for the first time, we run a bracket, or are running a bracket at the moment, where we are picking 2 of the best games from each year, or our personal favorites, our personal picks, 2 from each year. And once we finish picking all of those choices, we will start putting them head to head against each other.
Which, again, get on the socials for, because that's where you're going to be able to vote.
Exactly.
So, honourable mentions for 1998: Half-Life, Metal Gear Solid, Baldur's Gate, Resident Evil 2, a series that we just spoke about, Fallout 2, South Park, the original South Park game.
It was good.
I remember. I still can't get rid of this tickle. It was fantastic on the PS1. It had I think it had a 12-year-old rating or something in the UK. And
probably should have been higher than that.
Probably should have. And I went to buy it, and they're like, "Can you prove that you're over 12 years old?" I'm like, "Well, no. I'm 12 years old. How am I going to prove that?"
Yeah.
So I had to get a mate go and buy it for me. Thoroughly loved it. It was 3D. You could throw snowballs. You could piss on the snowballs and throw those. Great game. Banjo-Kazooie. Crash 3 Warped. One that was very close to being one of our selections. Medieval.
What a game.
Pokemon Yellow. Tomb Raider 3. This one surprised me. Rainbow Six.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Series has been going for a while. Soul Calibur. Road Rash 3D. Unreal. One of my personal favourite games of all time, but not quite good enough to beat out my pick for this week. And that's StarCraft. And a sneaky little one that I thought I'd throw in here. And a lot of people are going to say we probably should have picked this. But Snake on the Nokia 6110.
Yeah, yes.
I reckon I would probably put more hours into that game than I have any other game in the history of gaming.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really good point.
Like, games these days, you play and your battery dies.
Yeah.
That thing, I could have been playing it since 1998 till now, and the battery still wouldn't be dead.
In fairness, like, the battery on that phone was great, and to play that game, it only had to move about 5 pixels across the screen. So,
yeah, well, that's true. That's very true. So, my pick. You said before we went live that you think we would have got crucified if I hadn't have picked this. Now I didn't pick this because of it. I picked it before we had that conversation. I also picked it because it's the only game in this series that I've actually thoroughly enjoyed. And that's The Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time.
Didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild?
No. I think we spoke about that on one of the earlier episodes. Right. That I just don't like the art style of that game.
Fair enough.
That's why I never got past about 2 hours into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the Switch sitting there, hooked up. Ooh, makes me think. Anyway, that's a different thought. Your pick.
I've gone for a game that is really close to my heart, and if any of you follow me on social media, you'll know that it's one of the 2 characters in my profile picture, and that is Spyro the Dragon on PlayStation 1.
It's also who he named his character after on the latest FIFA Pro Clubs game.
That's true. Yeah.
and I made him change his hair back when he changed it from purple because I couldn't see who he was, and it just looked weird. What's really interesting about Spyro is that, much like Crash Bandicoot, they were both sort of the poster children of PlayStation for so long through the PS1 and into the PS2 era. And now they're both going to be owned by Xbox. And it hurts. It hurts so much.
It does. I mean, both of those studios, Naughty Dog and Insomniac, have always been really close with each other. Both geographically, they're both within, I don't know, like 20 miles of each other or something. But they've always been really close. They actually used to share technology back in the PS1 days. And so, yeah, that's why probably there are some similarities really in terms of the art style and everything in those games. And now both of those studios have kind of very close ties, obviously, with Sony, but both of those characters have been bought out in previous years and are no longer being made by their original developers. So yes, very sad.
Yeah, I think because both those games were Activision published, if I remember rightly, and I think
not the first Spyro. No, that was published by Sony.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought that Activision, it was just one of those publisher owns the IP situations.
I think they saw. I could be wrong here, so someone in the comments can correct me. But I believe at some point, whether it was the second game or the third game, they sold the publishing rights to Activision in order to make that game, and then later on sold the IP completely.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if they're not going to make any more, don't have any plans to make any more in that series, then, you know, why not move it on, let somebody else take it and make some quick cash off the back end of it.
I do find it interesting that Insomniac sold the IP for Spyro, but never seemed to consider selling the IP for Ratchet and Clank. And, like Naughty Dog also sold Jak and Daxter, didn't they? So, yeah.
I think with Ratchet and Clank, it was kind of a progression for them. Do you know what I mean? Like they sort of Spyro, although it was quite difficult, it was aimed at the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ratchet and Clank felt like it was the progression of those that grew up with Spyro now being teenagers. Yeah. This is the next game for you guys.
Yeah.
And then
it was definitely the first couple of Ratchet and Clank games were definitely aimed at a slightly more mature audience. There are definitely some mature jokes in there, and the relationship between Ratchet and Clank has a lot more banter than the remake would suggest. They didn't really get along with each other to begin with.
But you can sort of see the progression as a studio on how it's moved from where it started and worked up with those that grew up playing those games almost with the studio. And it's been very successful for them.
Yeah. But yeah, Spyro was just a great game, and I think that the first Spyro game was, in my opinion, probably my favorite of the three that they made. Although all three were really good.
We also kind of know that, you know, they've Sony pretty much own the rights to Jack and Daxter, not Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are one of the posters now for Sony.
Yeah, and Insomniac is
own
owned by PlayStation Studios.
And
so.
they own the studios,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, that's probably the route it went rather than sell it off by the studio. I mean, who would you class as the poster people now for Sony?
Yeah, that's tricky.
I know
because
when they do their you know, square, triangle, circle, X, whatever it is,
yeah.
logo, like they sort of go through, and you know, you've got your Kratos, you've got your Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank.
You've got, it's just because that the title of Jack and Daxter just rolls off quite nicely.
Yeah.
You've got Aloy from Breath of the Wild or
Horizon.
You've got Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, is there anyone else that you would sort of go, well, what about this?
I suppose they usually, I think they usually have a Last of Us.
Yeah, they usually got Joel. I think Ellie.
Yeah, I think it's usually
maybe
Ellie.
Joel and Ellie?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess it depends. You know, if Spider-Man 2 is a massive success, then probably Spider-Man will be, which, you know, isn't
it
really
is on there.
their IP. Yeah.
It is already on there.
Yeah.
I mean, in saying that, something came out today. How stunning does that look?
Yeah, that looks fantastic.
I am not opening it. It is staying in there.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm.
Much like my God of War 1 up. Oh, no, you can't see it. Much like my God of War 1. They stay up here.
It's a shame that they aren't doing DualSense Edge versions of those limited controllers.
I mean, would you really want to spend another $350-$400 on?
Probably not. I tell you what would be cool with the DualSense Edge if they had designed it so that
you could have skins.
kind of you could have skins or replace the plates on there. Yeah,
pop those off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that as you said it. Now I'm disappointed.
They missed an opportunity there.
I'm disappointed I didn't get the face plates, but yeah, that controller is stunning. Absolutely stunning. The black, it fades into the red. It looks like it's sort of covering the red. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait for that game. Really cannot wait for that game.
Yeah.
It's going to be so much fun. But until then, we have a FIFA stream to go get ready for. Blowy is joining us. I did try to get him on the podcast tonight, but as I can see on here, he's not on now, but he was playing Way of the Hunter, but he did tell me that he is going to be on for FIFA tonight, so we will have the defensive anchor. So yeah,
hope we can get promoted again because we have fallen a long way.
Oh, massively!
All right,
until next time, I'm going to go cough my lungs up, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.